We got to top 10 stores, in the country, and it was top 10 out of 16,000. And then, without anything changing as far as like what we were doing processes up to that point, it went to 60,000 stores.
Let's fight failure together. We can defeat 90.
Before you and me started working together, I reached this point where I was working by myself. My partner had moved on, and I was comfortable with the amount of money I was making per month, which started me sleeping in like later and going softer on my business, because I thought like I've reached the point and I could plateau here and be comfortable. But in all entrepreneurship and all businesses, if you're a sitting duck like that, there is a guy that wants it more, and he's at your heels, So you can't just like completely stop innovating or looking for new product lines or thinking of like better ways to market. Like if you are sitting there, it's like NASCAR, like you're at a pit stop and someone's either going to catch up with you or lap you at that point. So you can't get too comfortable, and I definitely was.
Why do you think that happened?
I mean, I hadn't come up against like opposition in the business yet, because I was like only 3 or 4 years in at the time. And I think like at that point, you definitely just take it for granted that like things were falling into place, and this feels good. And I was basing it also like on school, like public school, going up through elementary and high school, and like going to Evangel. It seems like the world is just step by step, next grade, next level. And I thought business would be that same way. You just like climb this kind of little systematic ladder. But it truly is like when you get to the top of the school ladder, you just step out into an open field, and it's just free roam, free game. You could go any direction and stuff. And there are like ruts and paths and people that'll help you, but the possibilities are endless as far as what the business could end up doing.
Okay, so look, as we know, more times than not, like getting to where everything's just like really, really good is not always the case for most business. You were definitely blessed in that, but I think we also, even though that's the case, we do find ways and things in our life that we do become passive about.
Yeah.
And we get comfortable in. Like for you, what did it take to wake you up?
So, I mean, my first wake up call was, we got to top 10 stores, in the country, and it was top 10 out of 16,000. And then, without anything changing as far as like what we were doing processes up to that point, it went to 60,000 stores. And that's, 5 times the competition.
Yeah.
So at that point, you're like, okay, what was originally a blue ocean, and we basically had our own private island, is now basically coming up against competition of like a true kind.
Yeah.
Where that is a bigger pool of, companies that are sharing the same amount of market.
So it was the pain.
Yeah.
So if you wouldn't experience the pain, do you think you'd still just been chilling?
I don't know. I mean, part of every man, I think, wants something more. Like I wanted to put a purpose to it and stuff, but there's the two like wolves, I think, that entrepreneurs deal with. You have like the one that you want to make an impact on the world, and you want to serve like a greater purpose and put your efforts towards something that's going to be like meaningful and, help people. And then the other one is like, there's that part of us that wants the rest, that you hear people like, oh, well, if I got 2 million, I could put in an index fund and I could live off of the residuals. Then I would just go lay on a beach somewhere and stuff. Like that they want to be done. So you have like the part that wants to like work hard and make a difference, and the part that's like ready to be finished.
Yeah.
And both of those are trying to get their way pretty much all the time.
And I think, I think it's so interesting. We've talked about these studies on that, just kind of diving off a little bit on that. Remember the one where about taking the infinite vacation? Like it was like 3 months? 3 weeks. 3 weeks in.
Yeah,
it was 3 weeks.
So if you put someone in like an all-inclusive resort for 3 weeks, by day 21, they're like dying to go home, which is crazy because you think like at that point you have everything you could ever want. So like, what do you want to go home for? But Alice Cooper, he's like, the famous rock star, he talked to Elvis's manager, and Elvis basically towards the end of his life was just doing show after show after show, tour after tour, where he had no freedom at all, but he had everything that he wanted. And, obviously like it ended in his demise, but the manager asked Alice Cooper, if I were to put you in a mansion and you could have all the best food, all the best drinks, drugs, girls, like anything, but you weren't allowed to leave the mansion, how long do you think you would last? And he's like, because that's what you're living for right now.
Yeah.
So if I gave you all that, but you were bound to a mansion, you would be depressed. So it's like there's this way of like all the worldly things, you know, that we are attracted to and like tempted to strive for. If you had it all, but you didn't have your freedom, you wouldn't want it.
Which you say freedom. I think part of the issue with it is more that lack of vision, right?
Mm-hmm.
That lack of purpose.
Yeah.
I feel like we as human beings were made to work towards something and do something that matters. And I hate saying this, but I mean, the stats kind of prove it out too when it comes to retirement. The people that retire, right, and stop actually doing something that matters, volunteering or whatever it is, maybe they stop doing their job, but they're doing something of purpose, they pass away a lot sooner.
Yeah, their health drops off.
It drops off. And so to me, I think, I mean, obviously we've all heard this, but finding something you're passionate about, finding something you love. But I think that was also a struggle with you because, like, did you enjoy what you were doing?
Yeah, so I didn't enjoy the actual part, like selling the product. I enjoyed the game of figuring out like how could we do this better, how could we optimize and stuff. But I didn't have like a goal like to optimize towards, you know. I just basically wanted to just see how refined we could get the machine. It's like, you know, obviously we got it down to like minimal time that we could, but like you obviously had the defeat 90 vision and different things. And I like was just seeing how close essentially I could get to retiring in my 20s, which is I truly like
really hilarious because
ridiculous.
Like, and we had many conversations. I'm like, dude, bro.
Yeah, if I was like trying to free up time for a purpose, I think it would have been different.
Yeah, which you end up introducing things to interesting adventures. We'll get to that in a second. But yeah, it didn't work out super well.
No, well, that's what's crazy is I like obviously I'm a Christ follower, and I believe that part of our curse is having to work.
Okay.
And it doesn't mean like physical labor, different things. You could work with your mind. You could be working with people and stuff. I think like when we're not working or not even working, when we're not living to our fullest potential, you feel that like it wears on you. And there's nothing you can do to trick yourself. You could trick other people and they think you're busy and you're working hard and stuff. And if you know that like I'm not bringing my best, that'll wear on you.
Well, for sure. And I think that for me, and it goes back to having something you love and you're passionate about and believing it's still work.
Yeah.
Right. And I, for me, and this is something I think it's important for you guys to know as viewers, is that like there was a shift. So I was working with him and I guess we transitioned to this. When I came on,
we're Classy Llama.
Classy Llama. And I was creating another video education platform that I was a part owner of, and he was working with me. He has a passion for film. We'll get into that in a second. And amazing cinematographer, like just amazing cinematographer. Great. But then COVID happened and a bunch of other things, and we were just like, oh crap. And so I ended up like I had tons of clients, and all of it went away, and basically it moved into this thing of like, hey, I'll come and help, and basically started consulting on his business and stuff like that. And we grew it. We basically I think ended up being like 3X in the business.
Yeah, 300.
And that was amazing. But there was a point in that when we got to that point where we're talking about where I'm like, what am I doing? like we had a super chill life, and I'm like,
yeah. Well, and like, you almost experienced a little bit of that, like myself, plateau. Like I'm saying, is when things are like easy, comfortable, everything feels good. It's hard to leave that hamster wheel. Well,
and I mean, when I was on my 6th vacation, I think for the year, I was like,
for the year,
and I'm just like, okay, well, and like something started starting to me, and like when there was a shift of when I knew things I need to move on and figure out my thing to do something that mattered.
Yeah.
And there was just this thing inside of me, like, I can't, and this defeat 90 is something I've been thinking about for like over 10 years. I'd tried parts of it before with another company a long time ago, but like, I knew I wanted to do something that could change lives and actually make an impact. Because after everything was done, I mean, I thought about going the route of just getting some like really high paid CEO or CMO type role. I mean, or help run a company, like very qualified. I've been doing this for forever, but I wanted to do something because this is not about the money for me. This is about like, if I can truly, in these conversations we have, if we can actually help you avoid some of the mistakes and things we went through and help you be even more successful. And the thing is too, is not just be successful, because like we've had the success where money is not a thing. And it was a thing, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're trying to allude to in this, of getting to that purpose and knowing your vision of why you're doing what you're doing. And I think even in your business that you're doing, like maybe you feel stuck and maybe you're feeling not motivated, try to go back to your why. Why are you there? What are you doing that for? Because it might, I know when you started getting back to your why and where you were trying to go, that really started kicking off where you wanted to go with things. And
yeah, absolutely.
Let's fight failure together. We can defeat 90.